Right. So I just want to welcome everyone to our Heart and Soul Inspirational Hour. Today we're going to be talking about gratitude. And you might say, well, why are we going to talk about gratitude? This is a business training. But we all know that in order to be successful in our businesses, it starts with us and it starts with how we think. And I don't think we can have too many reminders these days on how to change that. We have all been going through so much, and sometimes for some of us, it's been our whole lives, right? So, how do we change certain things and create new pathways? And so that's what we're going to be talking about today is the science behind gratitude. So I truly believe that how we think affects, well, it's not just what I think, it's the facts. It affects everything in our life. What we focus on, we create. So we're going to talk about this topic today, and it's really, really, really important. So when we express gratitude, and we express gratitude, when we express it and we receive it, right? It actually, our brains release hormones. They release dopamine and serotonin. So we've all heard a lot about this. In fact, we know that those who take soul products have a sense of well-being because it is releasing serotonin and dopamine. So we know what this is, how important this is, okay? And that's also why the products work so well because they focus on the mind-body balancing effect. You can't have one without the other. You can't focus on the emotions and not the body. They all work synergistically together to create wellness or a lack of wellness. So this is really important for us, especially. So these two crucial neurotransmitters are responsible for those feel-good hormones that are released. They enhance our moods. They secrete hormones that just create overall happiness and joy. So this is what people are always searching for, right? Many people end up turning to drugs, alcohol, because they're just trying to feel happy. They're trying to feel those feel good emotions, but we know that when we turn to things that aren't good for us, it has the opposite effect. But that's what people are searching for. They just want to feel happy. They just want to feel good. And we know that being in the business that we're in, people are just searching for that peace, to feel content, to feel happy. And feelings, they're chemical thoughts. So it's important to think about that. So with every thought causes a chemical reaction. And we've talked about this before, but we have over 60,000 thoughts a day. So think about what those thoughts are, and are they positive or are they negative? So this time we're going to have together is a time that we really want to reflect on ourselves and where we can make adjustments because we want to be happy, right? We were designed to be happy. We were not designed to suffer. We were not designed to go through the things that we go through. Our bodies, our minds are actually designed and wired for happiness. So how do we tap into that? So fear, sadness, anger, negative emotions release, they cause stress in the body, which releases cortisol. Okay, so every thought has a chemical reaction. So we need to think about that. Sometimes we don't think, oh, we think of physical issues that we have, but we don't think about our thoughts actually having a hormone released every time we think of something positive or negative, and how it can be so detrimental to us, not only mentally, but also physically. So we're going to talk about some heightened emotions, okay? So some heightened emotions: love, gratitude, amusement, joy, awe, serenity, inspiration, hope. These are elevated emotions, things we want to feel. So there's a saying, this doctor that I've actually been taking courses from, he said, if nothing around you impresses you, you won't have a very impressive life. And I found that so profound. I'm going to say it again. If nothing around you impresses you, you won't have a very impressive life. And we're going to talk about the subconscious and the conscious mind because this is really important to understand why we do the things we do, why we think the way we think, but that we can change it. We're not doomed. We're not doomed because of suffering. We've gone through traumas. We've gone through our programming from our parents and the things they went through, passing it down to us. We actually have a lot more control than we realize. So when we focus on gratitude, it creates elevated emotions. We change our physiology. We literally can change our physiology. How powerful is that? When we feel these elevated emotions. So sometimes you might think, well, but I'm going through so much in my life. I have so much stress. This is happening, that's happening. Well, if we stay in that mode, we're going to continue releasing cortisol, which is going to affect us in every way. And it's going to affect our brain. It's going to affect the pathways, all of that. So serotonin, it regulates your mood. It regulates your sleep, your gut health. It helps with weight loss. It helps with heart circulatory, helps with memory, digestion, um, bone health. So many different things is what serotonin helps with our bodies. Okay. Dopamine helps us feel pleasure. That's why people turn to drugs too. It's like you want that instant pleasure, like help me feel happy, right? That dopamine. It helps us with learning. It helps us with motivation. It helps us with pain control even. Isn't that interesting? It helps with digestion. So things, and I mean, so many more things we could go on and on. But one thought alone can change our neurochemistry. One thought. Because our cells, I mean, we are so wonderfully made, and that is an understatement. When we understand what we are designed to do as human beings is fascinating. And that's why I just love learning about this because we don't understand the power as human beings that we actually have to change things. Obviously, we can't change everything. We're imperfect, but there's so much that we have been designed to do. We just need to understand it and then implement it. So our cells will literally respond positively or negatively to the things we think. That is something that is so empowering because we can change how we think. Now, it might take effort and a lot of work and consistency, but we can do it. So, as a society, we are addicted to our suffering. We are addicted to our pain. We are addicted to our traumas. Now, I'm speaking of this from someone, we all have been through horrible traumas in our life. Most people have been through a lot of different things, abuse, different traumas, different tragedies. Um, but it's so important that we do not identify with our suffering. And I'm going to give you an example. Myself, for example, most of all of you guys know my story. And so I'm going to tell you what happened because of it. So some of us maybe were raised in environments that were not, we didn't feel safe. Didn't feel protected. We didn't feel loved. I mean, I'm just being honest. Like, I think a lot of people were raised in environments where they lacked things that we should have had as a human being. So in my situation, that's how I felt growing up. I did not feel loved, protected, secure. And so when I went through my car accident and everyone was rallying around me, and I almost died. You all know the situation. I lost a baby. I was bedridden. They said I wouldn't walk, all these things. Everyone was rallying around me, which thank goodness, right? Thank goodness for human support and love and comfort. But all of a sudden, everyone is they're for me. They love me. They're decorating my whole hospital room. I mean, it was covered floor to ceiling and cards and I had plants and flowers and all this stuff, right? So subconsciously, when we go through trauma and we are finally paid attention to, let's just say, our subconscious is programming that. Okay, now you went through trauma. Now you are getting love. Now people are paying attention to you. Not that you are happy it happened, because of course not. But this is just how interesting our brains work and our subconscious works. So throughout my life, for many, many years, I identified with my suffering. My identity was Rachel who was traumatized, Rachel who lost the baby, Rachel who's in pain all the time. That became my identity without me understanding that's what I was doing, because this is what happens. Our subconscious takes over. Since we're in the womb, our subconscious is logging in, logging in. When we're sleeping, our subconscious is there. It's thinking, it's processing. So all these things are here. And so we won't even understand why we think how we think, or why we react the way we react, or why we choose the people to be in our lives that we choose to be in our lives. And sometimes it's bad, bad, bad decisions. And so for me, that became my identity. I was addicted to my suffering and being that victim. And I didn't even know what I was doing until I went to one of my rehab. I went to 5 rehabs for getting over my addictions to pain pills and alcohol. And one time the counselor looked at me and he said, "You need to stop being a victim and get off the pity pot." And I was so pissed. I was like, "How dare you?" But actually, I really appreciated it, because I was like, oh my gosh, I've identified with my suffering. I've identified as a victim. I don't want to be a victim. I don't want to be identified with my trauma and with the things that have happened to me. And he was awesome, but sometimes we have to be told what we don't want to hear for us to go, oh, and then consciously start thinking about, what am I doing? And so I really appreciated that, actually. And I really liked him as a counselor. So we have to identify that maybe we are addicted to those things, and it perpetuates more suffering, because it's like every time you think of something painful, you actually release those hormones and chemicals in your brain, in your body. So it's like you are reliving the same thing, like it's happening right now. So that is something we need to remember. So if we continue talking about our problems, we are releasing chemicals. Our bodies, our cells are listening. They're changing based on what we're thinking and talking about constantly. So that's where tapping into our conscious mind is so critical. And some people are like, subconscious, conscious, what the heck? That's weird stuff. No, it's not. It's actually the way our brains operate. So the majority of humans on this planet, they are acting at 95% subconscious. And now, after the last 2 years, it's been said that it's probably closer to 98. So what does that mean? Well, subconsciously, we wake up in the morning, right? We don't think about what we're doing. We get out of bed. Maybe we make ourselves a cup of coffee, take a shower. With us, we take our soul products and our Cinemate. But we drive places. Have you ever just gone like your mind was somewhere else, and you drive somewhere and you're like, how did I even get here? That's your subconscious operating. That is your programming. Those are habits. Those are things that are embedded and programmed into our subconscious. Just like when let's say we were just starting to drive when we were 16, we were scared to death. We were not subconsciously driving. We were consciously like, oh, don't run a red light. I'll make sure you stop at the stop sign, right? That is conscious thinking. But as adults and humans, we have gotten to a state where we react from a subconscious level. And that is dangerous, and that it can be toxic, because we are not thinking. We are only reacting out of habit and programming. or what other people tell us. We're not using critical thinking. We're not using our conscious mind. And so that is something that in order to change our brains, to create new pathways, to release the right hormones that promote health, joy, all of those elevated emotions that are actually divine emotions. Joy is a divine emotion, and humans are lacking in it. And it's not supposed to be that way. So, how do we consciously create elevated emotions? So, this takes focus and effort and being aware. So, being aware of our thoughts, that's a biggie because I know when I was, realizing a lot of things through my journey of, I'm trying to change and grow and, have a different life and a different outlook. And I would think about my thoughts. And that's something we all need to do first and foremost. We need to go, what's coming to my mind? Um, and a lot of times, hey, let's be real. Maybe our upbringing was super negative and critical. I mean, that is the reality of the world now. Our parents, their parents were that way with them. They were that way with us. And then how do we break the cycle? How do we stop the insanity? It only can stop if our conscious mind is working. We have to tap into our conscious mind. We cannot mindlessly, brainlessly go through life. I mean, we can, but our life's going to suck. And we're going to pass that down to our kids, and their life is going to be the same. So it stops with us, but it stops when we're aware and we're consciously thinking about what we're doing. We're putting thought into the choices that we make. We're supposed to be conscious beings, not just react out of programming. That is where and then that also makes us physically ill too. So there's so much to it. So how do we change that? I know when I was thinking about, my thoughts, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so negative. Like, you don't even know until you pay attention. You're like, oh man, that is so bad. I can't believe that. And then you go, you can't fix what you don't acknowledge. You can't change what you don't understand or realize about yourself. It's just like when we're like, why am I not losing weight? Well, I don't eat that bad. And then you write down everything you ate and you're like, oh, no wonder. Okay, I'm delusional. Like I thought I was doing so great. And then surprise, you're not. Because when you do an accounting of what's real, then you can make the changes because you're being honest with yourself. And we were wired to love. We were wired for joy. We were wired for happiness. And gratitude affects the physical body, just like we've learned with, everything we've learned about soul naturals and their adaptogens and the mind body connection and how the mind affects the body and the body affects the mind. So we were wired for happiness and joy and love. So, how do we create those chemicals that are going to create more, right? So as humans, we have so much good in our lives, right? We do. We have so many beautiful things. And obviously, there's a lot of bad in the world right now. There is so many sad things also. So, how do we create happiness in the life that we have? No matter what is going on in the world, and this isn't to say that we are a Pollyanna living in la la land. Oh, everything's wonderful because that's annoying. You know what I mean? Like we got to be real, but there are things we cannot control in this world. We cannot control certain things, but we can be the light. And I think, like, I think for me, like I take in everything and like all the negative, and it can be so much. And I just think I want to be a source of light. Like, I don't want to feed into all of this pain and all of this suffering because there are things we can't control. There's only one person, two people, maybe, yes, two, who can do anything about this. And so we know that, but there are things we can do to change our physiology, change our brain, and not only ourselves, but we will help other people to do the same thing. And that's what we want to do, not just for ourselves, but for those around us. And it made me think about the whole dog vomit scenario. I don't know if you guys have heard of that, but when you see all these beautiful things, I'll give you an example. Okay, so my backyard, I like to go out and sit outside and keep my phone inside so I'm not sucked into all that. I'm looking at the grass, I'm looking at the sky, I'm taking in the raindrops on the grass, which I posted on my stuff before because I was like, this is so beautiful. Like these raindrops are so beautiful. And you're looking at the trees, you're listening to the birds, you're taking it in, you're in the moment. And then you see a pile of dog crap, let's just say on your I don't know what other way to say it. Or vomit or whatever. You're focusing on that. You're all of a sudden you're forgetting all the beautiful things and you're like, oh my God, that's so annoying. I can't believe like my kids didn't pick it up or that's disgusting. And all you're focusing on is the dog vomit or the poop, whatever. So we have to make a conscious effort to sit in the beautiful things. We have to focus, we have to feel it, we have to live it. And when we do that, it creates the elevated emotion, the dopamine, the serotonin, and then we see more beauty. And then we see more good. But what happens is negativity perpetuates negativity. When people say when it rains, it pours. You know what happens when one bad thing happens to us? What do we tell ourselves? Man, my day's going to be terrible. See? See, this is always happens to me. Everything bad happens to me, and now this person just cut me off. See, that's how it goes. Like it always goes this way for me. And we're telling our brains, yeah, you're right. You're right. Everything stinks. Like everybody sucks. Like everybody's mean. Like, and obviously we can all go through that because people, we get frustrated. We're only human, right? But we will create our own reality. What we want to see, we will see. If we want to see the dog vomit everywhere, all we're going to see is that. If we want to see the beauty, that's what we're going to see. And we're going to emanate joy, emanate love, all the things that we want to as human beings, and help other people to feel that. That's a very, very powerful thing. But we also want to express it. So, in order to consciously create this, we need to take the time and express our gratitude. For some people, it's prayer. Some people, it's another higher power or just saying the words out loud. Just saying, I am so grateful for, think these things because look, it goes against some people's nature to be positive because they've been programmed for negativity. And it literally can be so deeply rooted and it's understandable. Some people, I mean, I've been around their parents and all they do is complain, the parents. And then I'm like, no wonder they're like this because their parents only give them grief. They complain about everything. They're pick on them. They're rude. They look at all the negative and then I'm like, well, that makes sense. So we have to like start with just think something positive. Like wake up in the morning. Wow, thank you. Thank you that I am alive and that I am here breathing and that I have XYZ. Go outside, look at the sky, look at the trees, listen, take it in, listen to the birds chirping, look at the hummingbirds. Like I love to do that. So set aside some time first thing in your day to consciously say, I am grateful for, and mean it. But even if you don't, just start somewhere because guess what? It'll turn into something you mean. It's better to say it and get that started and just really, really sit in it because that makes such a difference. And then you're going to start. It's just like how they say, once you get a red car, you see all the red cars you never noticed before. So you're literally creating new pathways in your brain and you start to see good things and you start to see good people. Because I've heard people say, man, there's just rude people everywhere. And granted, it's a little different now. People are a little bit stinkier. But I'll tell you an example. So when I went to New York, I took my kids to New York like 2017. Anyways, and everyone's saying how rude New Yorkers are. Like, they're the rudest people you will ever meet, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm a positive person and I like to like put positive vibes out there. Do you know we had the best time? We met the coolest people in New York City. We were sitting down with this guy with a heavy, but we smiled at everyone, you know? We were friendly. Hi, how are you? I didn't pay attention to like negative Nancy's in the room. Like I didn't even see them because I wasn't looking for them. So you will, whatever you put out is what you will attract. So if you go in with a chip on your shoulder, man, everybody's rude. See that person over there? They're staring at me. I know they're judging me. They know I'm from California. And I know they hate Californians, you know. But we had such cool experiences in New York. People helped us. They like would tell us where to go. We had gotten some guys, older guys, Jewish guys with accents, super cool, sitting at our table talking to us about, oh, you guys are so nice. You're from California? No way. You know what I mean? It was so fun. And so we have to be conscious of the thoughts because our thoughts become emotions. Our emotions change our physiology. And then that changes how we feel and how we look at things and how people will be drawn to us or not be drawn to us. And, you know, in this business, it's really important that we attract people. We don't want to repel them. That's not what this is. We're trying to like be a light and we're trying to help them. And so that's why like a training like this I felt like was so good because I've been learning so many things from this doctor. And I mean, I already, you know, there's certain things I've already known, but when he explains it in a scientific way, and really breaking it down, it's just like, oh my gosh, that's so amazing. It just makes so much sense. So we want to tell people what we're grateful for. We want to express it to people. You know, it could be, and you know, sometimes people annoy us, like family members. Let's just say, I mean, you know, family is family, right? So why not just find something we can show that we are appreciative of? Like send them a text message. Hey, I just want to let you know I love you and you know, I really appreciate this about you. Or someone that we're friends with, you know, because you're creating those pathways and it makes people feel good and it makes us feel good. That's how we're designed. So the more we do it, the more natural it will become. So you might feel like, God, this is so fake. I feel so fake right now. But what happens is it will actually create to where you feel it in your heart. It will become more natural to you to express these things. So we want to promote gratitude. We want to, it starts with us. We want to promote it. We want to be an example and we want to practice, 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 practice. So this is something we want to do on a daily basis. We want to express our gratitude. We want to sit in things that make us feel happy. We want to express it. We want to practice it. So that elevated emotion will create better relationships with others. That is so important. People, we were created to have connection, human connection. So when we create that elevated emotion through gratitude, we will have a better relationship with everyone in our life. And there's, you know, especially one that's even more important, right? So all of these things will create a happier life, which is what we are all wanting and we all should have. We should not live a life stuck in our suffering. And that doesn't mean we're discounting what people are going through. We're not. You know, we are all going to suffer. But how are we going to take that? Are we going to sit in it? Are we going to let it become our identity? Or are we going to change that and look for the beauty and look for the good and create elevated emotions? So thank you guys so much. I appreciate everyone being here today, and we did record it. So for those that are watching the recording, we're happy that you're here too. And I also wanted to mention we are not going to have a training next Friday, so we will resume the following Friday. And then also, I just wanted to ask if anyone has anything you want to share, any thoughts, any wins, anything like that that you would like to share with us. We are wrapping it up, but sometimes I know through the week, maybe it has to do with signing, you know, up a new member or having people start the products or anything. Anything good that's happening to you this week, we'd love to hear from you. And if not, we can close it out. Oh, Jody?
So I actually had a couple. There's a friend that I've worked with for, oh, maybe 15 years ago or so, but we always worked really, really well together. She moved to California. She's actually a specialist. When she joined Soul, she joined as a specialist, but wasn't really like promoting it, and then got busy with a job. Anyway, her husband is a pilot, and he flies like small, I forgot what you call them, but like small engine, like two-seater, things. Anyway, he was up in the air. He was not flying. Somebody else was, but they had an accident. And this is in California. They had an accident, and obviously he went to the hospital. But he's the type of person that does not do well with narcotics, wanted no narcotics. And they ended up giving him some anyway, but he, stopped it and didn't want that. So he looked at his wife, at my friend Tiffany, and he in the past had always kind of poo-pooed her, using Soul, and, like, oh, that's not going to work, or I don't like the taste of this or whatever. So she always had to sneak stuff in his shakes. And they're both very, very fit. They're both super fit athletes. And, so anyway, she texts me, she goes, so there's Rob, and he's in a neck brace, and he's like, do you have any of your Soleil? He goes, Soleil. Do you have any of your Soleil? So here he was, she was like, no, Rob, I don't carry it, with me, but she had to run home to go do something. And she brought in the AC cream and Flex PI, and she brought like a whole bunch of things. So that's really all he's been taking. It's really, been working well. She's added a couple other things to it, like the Vertizymes, and, but she's been doing really, really well with it. Well, somebody at work had asked her, somebody who was just diagnosed with RA had asked her, like, what are you doing? You look healthy. Like, how do you stay healthy? And your husband, what are you giving him, after this accident? So she started talking to her about Soul, and she sent me a text last night that the woman sent to her. She said, she was talking to her, she goes, you are the sweetest. And she goes, I can't thank you enough. I fight the pain every day, but I don't tell anyone. She says, I found out yesterday the life expectancy for women with RA is 63. And she goes, man, it made me shed a few tears. I can't explain the pain, just that it's so hard on the body. If the pain doesn't get me, the meds they give me will. So your help is greatly appreciated. So now she's finally able to start sharing, Soul again, and it's one with her husband, and then, with a workmate. So I hope that she can continue, helping people with her. She has a beautiful personality, so I'm sure that will do good.
Wow, that's so awesome. Wow, thank you for sharing that, Jody. That's powerful. And that's the thing, I know that there have been some that have gone through surgery recently and they can't do narcotics. I know my nephew had a surgery a while ago and he had a horrible reaction to the drugs. So my sister was giving him like big amounts of Solflex PI. And it actually worked better than the narcotics, because the narcotics actually made him hallucinate. Like, it was bad, 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 bad. So that is so awesome. That is so cool, Jody. And that's the thing, like, you don't know when people are gonna come around. You don't know, and so for her husband, a lot of guys do that. They poo-poo stuff until they're in pain, and then they're like, okay, or help me, you know. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. We'll have to follow up on all that. Terry. Oh, and then Rosa. Sorry, Rosa after Terry.
Yeah, I have she's my best friend. We've been best friends for longer than we've known our husbands. And we've both been married, over 30 years. And so she moved to Iowa. I'm in California, but we stay in touch. And so she got telling me that she had, for 2 years, she's been suffering with allergies, and like her ears, they feel like they have water in them and the whole thing. And I said, oh, well, and she's always struggling. They're always struggling their budget. So I said, okay, I'm going to say, if I send you something, will you take it? She goes, yeah. So I was having trouble that month too in my budget. So I used all of my rewards points and I sent her a box of Cinemate and a bottle of clear. And so she started taking it. And then that next month, they had the special with, if you bought a box of Cinnamate, they gave you the vitamin D. And so she went ahead and got that because she really liked the Cinnamate. And I asked her, what do you like about the Cinnamate? She goes, oh, I feel kind of energetic all day. And she's not one to drink coffee, and she tries to stay away from caffeine, but she really liked it. And then, so I didn't push her. But then this last month, the end of last month, she asked about the auto ship. And I said, oh yeah, you're not tied to anything. You can cancel it, you could stop it, you can pause it, you could do whatever you want, you could change it every month, you know. So she finally is trying more product. And she set up an auto ship. She purchased some Renew for her husband. I can't remember what she put in her auto ship. And she asked me, we got talking about Royal. And I said, oh, I'll send you a sample. I'll send you a sample. And so she's considering that too. So I thought, you know, and I remember Greg saying at one of the meetings, he said, don't always think that people don't have the money or don't have the budget, you know, for this kind of thing. Don't just assume that they don't have the money, because she's willing now to look into more natural solutions to her problems. And she suffers from major depression and anxiety. I have mentioned the adaptables to her, and I'm hoping that she'll consider those in the future, and maybe get off of some of her meds or like reduce some of her meds. But I just wanted to share, you know, that we shouldn't just assume that people don't have the money or don't have the means to do it, because she's looking at it now and she's going, yeah, the Clear SI, it makes me feel so good. So she reordered that, and she ordered the Cinnamate, and she ordered something for her husband. And, you know, I didn't think she had the money for that, but she's apparently making it open in her budget for some natural stuff.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you, Terry. Well, and that's the thing, you know, we will project that onto people. If we think they can't or won't or whatever reason, then we basically created that. And so people will spend money on what they value, you know, and that's a fact. So I know people who have said, you know what, this is food for me. This is my food for my brain and my body. So I'm going to budget into my grocery, you know, budget. You know, like people that they spend money on what they want. And that's just a fact. No matter how broke you are, you know? So thank you so much for sharing that, Terry. That's so good. So true. Okay. So Rosa, you had it up first too, right?
Yeah, I don't know if Maria needs to go first.
Okay, do you
know,
need to
'cause
go
she's
first,
working.
Maria?
It's okay.
Okay.
No?
Whoever's in
Okay.
a hurry. Okay.
First of all, did you already stop the recording?
No, but I can if you want me to. Hold on.